My name is Leonard Hicks. I recently published a book called Yesterday I Touched the Sun. The book contains a number of poems and stories related to my growing up in and around the small town of Carrollton, Alabama. Now, if you're going to write about growing up in Carrollton, it's imperative that you include something about Henry Wells. Wells was a former slave who was killed in this town more than 130 years ago. Now, just how he died still remains a mystery. Some say that he was the victim of an angry lynch mob. Others say he was struck by lightning, while some claim that he was shot while trying to escape the custody of the county sheriff. Whichever version you choose to believe, the fact is that shortly after his death, a face appeared in the attic window of the Carrollton courthouse that bears an uncanny resemblance to that of Henry Wells, and that face remains there to this day. Now, legend has it that Wells is buried in an unmarked grave near the southeast corner of this cemetery. As a child, I spent many nights at my grandmother's house, along with my first cousins, Nathan and Fred, whom we called Little Boy and Tut, and my brother Benny, whom we called Boom. And the best of those nights were the nights when my grandmother, based on an old African tradition, would gather us around on the floor and entertain us with one of her many stories. At this time, I'd like to do a poem from the book that will allow us to relive just what it was like those nights at Grandma's house when she told us the story of Henry Wells. I've spent many hours writing about the fun we had growing up in the South. But my greatest thrill, there can be no doubt, was listening to stories at Grandma's house. That was Little Boy and Tut, and me and Boom, a fireplace burning in a lamplit room. Now, Grandma'd spit and take a little nip, take a snuff can out and take a little dip. She'd wipe her brow, and we kids could tell she's gonna tell the story of old Henry Wells. We moved in close around on the floor, 'cause we knew it wasn't safe by a window or a door. She said Hank was out working most of the time. He had 3 little children and a wife, Caroline. They say he was uppity and known to fuss, and the day they arrested him, Lord, didn't he curse. The white folks gathered, and word got around. This is the fella that burnt the courthouse down. They hid him in the attic, and just before it rained, they spotted Hank's face in the lower right pane. They dragged him outside, and all he would say was, Lord, please make these white folks remember this day. Grandma spoke, and with a trembling hand, told of how they killed an innocent man, and how some nights in the middle of a storm, if you listen real close, you can hear Hank moan. She then made a pallet down on the floor, for we were scared to go home, but still wanted more. She cupped her hand close to her ear, said, Hush, you chillun, what's that I hear? She listened a minute, and then shook her head, blew out the lamp, and clambered into bed. Now Toots started crying, and Boone went to sleep, still pretending he wasn't scared of Haints. And I was so far under the covers, I thought I would faint when Grandma whispered, Y'all go to sleep. That's just them white folks killing old Hank. Well, Grandma's gone. The house is tore down. We kids grew up and moved out of town. Things around Carrollton really hadn't changed. The old courthouse, it still looks the same. So if you're ever in town to visit a spell, and you doubt the stories the old folks tell, the north attic window, as clear as a bell, is the ghostly face of Henry